everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Samantha Anderson. I am a freelance artist and teacher hoping to inspire creativity. If you would like more videos like these, please take a second to like and subscribe down below. It really helps in the algorithm of YouTube to help get my videos seen to more people. If you want to receive notifications of when I go live, please make sure to hit the bell and choose all notifications. If you have any questions during or after the class, make sure to pop a comment down below and I will answer it as soon as I can. I'll be leaving timestamps down below so you can skip ahead to the start of class, but I will be sharing announcements as well as supplies, so make sure to stick around for that. If interested in learning more about my classes, please follow me on Facebook and Instagram, and feel free to check me out on Patreon, where I teach exclusive classes to those who support me. In Patreon, I also give traceables for all of my live classes, including this one. Lastly, if you would like to share your work after class with me and others who painted along with us, please head over to Facebook, as I have an artist community where you can share your finished painting with us. I'll leave links for all of that in the description box below. Thanks for joining me, and let's get started. Hi everyone, welcome back to another live stream. I am so sorry I am late. For some reason, my computer decided to restart as soon as I got everything set up. So, alas, here we are. I am excited to paint. As always, if you are new to the channel, please consider subscribing. I'm attempting to get to 10,000 before the end of the year. So every subscriber helps. And honestly, if you are here painting with me, you'll probably like a lot of the other content I have that is painting. So I teach acrylics and I also teach watercolor every now and then. Right now it's once a month. So if you enjoy painting, feel free to subscribe, like, comment, share, all those things. It really does help out. So if you are ready to paint, so am I. Let's get into all of the supplies, and then I'll have a few announcements, what's going on in Patreon, things that we've been painting. And I'll catch you up to speed on all of that, okay? Also, if you are here live with me, make sure that you comment down below and let me know. Let me know where you're from. I always like to see where people are from, or how long you've been painting. If you're new to the channel, if you've been painting with me for a while, obviously I probably know your name by now. But yeah, welcome in and say hi. The first thing I'm going to go over is the traceable. I have traceables for every single live class that I've ever done in my Patreon. So if you're at the $5 level, you'll have access to this. This is simply a thank you to those who support me. So if you like this channel and you like to keep things free, feel free to become a patron. You can go in there for just 1 month. You can stay for multiple months. Once you are a patron, though, you do have access to all of the traceables, not just for this month. So if you want access to this month's and everything else, maybe you have other tutorials that you've been eyeing that you want a traceable for, feel free to go in there. You can have access to as many as you need, and don't feel bad for leaving. If you're only there for if you only want to give $5, that is great. It does help me. It helps keep these classes free, and I really appreciate it. So yeah, this is a traceable. You do not need the traceable in order to take this class. So usually I go over a couple details of how you might draw this on. If you enjoy drawing, feel free to draw it, transfer it on, whatever. But I do give out the traceable for those people who either don't want to draw it, feel like they can't, don't have enough time, and I'm in that boat. I don't have the time to draw it on because I have 3 little ones at home, and I don't have, an hour and a half to spend getting all the details and making sure it's, proportioned correctly before I teach a class. So I use the traceable most of the time. Not all the time, but this time around I do have a traceable up there. So yeah, if you would like access to that, it's in the description of the event. It is also in the, I posted it and pinned it in the live chat for you. So if you would like to do that, go grab that now. Transfer it to your canvas while I'm going over all the other supplies, and then you can have that for a class. If not, and you're just watching, you can choose at the end of the class whether or not you want it, need it, or if you have time to draw it, go for it, 100%. yeah, so that's that. That's the traceable. As for colors, we have a lot of like warm gray colors. So I obviously have my black and my white, and then I'm gonna have my brown, orange, yellow, and those are just plain and basic colors, no specific colors. And then I realized I forgot to get my green out. If you have these colors and you don't have a green, you can always just get out a blue maybe, and you can mix your green with your blue and your yellow. I have a green. Where did it go? Ah, here it is. It's hiding. I have a bright green that I love to use. It's actually pretty close to the green that we're already going to be using. So if you have a bright green, feel free to use that. Otherwise, you can always mix other colors with it, like yellow and white and brown, to kind of tone it down, to give that earthy tone to it. So those are like the main colors I'm going to be using. I don't really see any other colors. I think I have blue on the list, but that's if you need a hint of blue to change the color, if you really want to get it dialed into the actual color of the plant. Otherwise, I don't think you'll need blue. But yeah, very basic colors today. If you would like, you can get out a red, just in case you need to tint it a little bit, like maybe the flower hues have a little bit of red in them. Feel free to have that out. But yeah. Today I am painting on an 11 by 14 stretched canvas. These are most of my paintings that I do live online, are these 11 by 14 canvases. I personally feel like it's large enough to put on a wall, but it's not so big that I become overwhelmed. And if it's too small, I feel like it's like this little tiny thing. Unless you have like a collection of them, it doesn't really make an impact on a wall and it looks tiny. 11 by 14 I feel like is a good enough size where it makes an impact on a wall without taking over, the entire wall. But yeah, so that's kind of why, that's my philosophy on the sizing that I choose. But yes, but if you have a different size, feel free to use it. In my Patreon, I have the traceable in 2 different sizes, 11 by 14 and 9 by 12. But if you're using a different size and you become a patron for that specific tutorial, just comment on that post. Say, hey, I'm using a 20 by 36 or whatever size you're using. And I will resize it for you and get it out to you. No, you don't have to pay extra or anything like that. That's just a perk of being a patron. So if you have a different size canvas that you want the traceable for, just let me know in Patreon, and it's really easy for me to resize it and upload it to that post, okay? And then everybody else will have that size too. Other supplies, you have your water, paper towel, and your palette. I also have a palette scraper so I can clean it during class. And then I also have a palette knife. If you are new and you've never used a palette knife before, don't worry, we're not using, don't freak out, we're not using a palette knife in our painting. I mean, you could, but we're mostly using our palette knife for mixing. So this is really important if you're doing any sort of blending. Blending is really, really nice when you have all your colors pre-mixed, and so I like to use a palette knife for that because not only can I mix a lot of paint without getting it all in my brushes, but then I also keep my water clean because often if you're using your brushes, you have to rinse them out every time you switch to a different color, and then you're dirtying up your water before you've even started painting. So it's just my preference, but if you've never used one for mixing your colors, I highly recommend it. Okay, on to the brushes. I have my typical brushes that I use in all my classes. This is a 11 by 4, or sorry, I went into canvas. This is my filbert. I have a large filbert, a medium-sized filbert, and then I have 2 round brushes about the same size. One is pointed, one is rounded. I use them for different things. And then whoa, gotta roll away. And then I have a medium-sized round brush that you've probably, if you've painted with me for any amount of time, you'll know that I call it my texture brush, my cloud brush, my dry brushing brush. because I use it for texture and adding washes or anything that like kind of is a little bit more rough on the bristles. I use that brush for, because it already is a little bit, you know, rough around the edges. So I use that brush for any type of texture, just so I don't ruin my other brushes. And then I have a liner brush. I will probably use those for the antennas and any other fine detail that we need. Throughout this class, I'll be adding little details here and there. If you're a beginner, you do not have to add all the little tiny details. If you're overwhelmed with all the little details, just add the basic main colors and main shapes. And you can either spend that time adding the detail, or you can just have it as is. I like to include detail in my painting classes, not only to challenge the beginners, but also to challenge the intermediate and advanced artists who want that level of instruction. But if you're a beginner and you're overwhelmed by all the little detail I'm putting in, just don't put it in. Just focus on the main shapes, the main colors, and the main aesthetic of it all, and don't get distracted by all the little things that we might put on. There's a lot of detail that we can put on this butterfly. Just pick and choose the things that you want to put on, the things that you feel comfortable with. Maybe push yourself here and there, but don't feel overwhelmed with all the details, okay? Okay. That is all of the, those are all the supplies. Let me know if you have any questions. Let's see. Hi, Natalie, from Ontario, Canada. Yes. Welcome in. What's the weather like in Canada? Because it is warm here in Merced. In California is warm. Central California is where I live, and it's not cooling down. And our AC is like it's like working, but it's like there's a leak somewhere, and so we're having to like not use it during the day and things. So it's like getting even warmer in the house, and I'm just like, please come fix our AC. But yeah, anyways, okay. I'm gonna go ahead and give a couple tips on how to draw this in case you don't want to use the traceable. There are plenty of drawing tutorials on YouTube, free, just like this class. So make use of those. If you want to learn how in depth on how to draw a butterfly, feel free to look some up on YouTube. You don't have to just wing it. Or you can find your own butterfly picture and trace it however you want to do it. It doesn't have to be this specific one. I'm here to give you tools and tips on how to create your own art. Whether or not that's this picture or another picture, that is up to you to decide, okay? So hopefully you're ready to draw this on. If you haven't drawn it on, let me just give you a couple tips. Essentially, you want to think about the butterfly as a triangle. You have this triangle here. And I would highly recommend that you draw this on a piece of paper first and then transfer it instead of drawing it on the canvas, because you don't have a lot of like markings and it's kind of hard to erase sometimes. So draw it on a piece of paper first, and then if you've drawn it enough times, then you might be able to draw it on the canvas, but until then I would definitely focus on a piece of paper and then just transfer it. So you have this here, and then obviously you're going to put that in half. They're pretty much the same size, the top and the bottom. The top might be like slightly bigger, but it's pretty much even, okay? And then for the flower, we're going to be doing most of the details on the fly while we do this, but we're not going to so we're not really, just make sure that it's like, you don't really have to draw that in. I put it in, but you don't have to. I'm going to be going over it and putting it in later. So just remember that we're viewing this flower from the side, so the stamen is really poking out, and then you have all the petals that are laying flat. Okay, so that's just the main thing. You don't need to put in all this detail. You can if you want to, but most of that will be adding in a little bit later. It's just up to you how much detail you want to do first versus after. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So I'm gonna let you guys draw that on. I'm gonna go over a couple announcements, things that we painted last week, things we're painting in Patreon, and then we'll get started, okay? So last week we painted these beautiful horses. So if you like horses or sunsets or oceans, make sure to go paint that one. It was a lot of fun. Obviously I do have a traceable if you don't want to draw the horses, but it came out really, really lovely, and yeah. What else can you say about it? I think it looks great. Over in Patreon, once a month, we do a exclusive Patreon tutorial just for those in the $10 tier. And this is what we painted. This is actually a part of a set of 4 paintings that we're doing. This is the 3rd. So we did a elephant, and then we did a lion, all in this fun blue and yellow, warm and cool colors. And I'm really excited. This one particularly, I think I talked about this last week too, but this one particularly looks a little bit more like realism, only because the colors. Because the warm colors sit in the reds and yellows and browns, and well, a giraffe is yellow. So it looks a little bit more of like a playful realism than it does like an abstract realism, versus all my other ones, like, you know, an elephant is gray. So it's not the yellows and the blues and the reds. A lion does not have those really dark blues or anything like that, or bright reds on it. Yes, it's like golden and yellow and stuff, but there's a lot of other colors in there. So this is like, it's more fun, but it does match all the other ones. So that's really fun, and I'm really excited for it. I can't wait to do the next one. We are going to be doing I don't know if we're not doing it next month. We're doing it the next month after, and we're going to be doing a rhino. So keep your eye out for that one. And then lastly, if you've been following along for my cobalt tutorials, which is we paint every week, for usually it's 1 month, but this specific one we're doing 2 months, because I knew that it was going to be taking some extra time for it. And we finally finished the background, so we were able to move on to the turtle. And look how cute! So last week we finished the rest of the fish and all the coral, and this week we were able to move on to the turtle, and we got so much done. Like, this is just the undercoat. I think we're pretty much done with the shell, with the exception of some color corrections, which we'll kind of be able to figure out a little bit more of once we get the rest of the dark in there. But look at how amazing this looks. I'm so excited. It looks so good. And this is just like pretty much the undercoat. So I'm excited to spend another hour and a half on it, and really take it to that next level and see where it all goes. So if you are not on my Facebook, this is where I posted this morning. So they kind of get a sneak peek first. And that's actually where I post probably 95% of everything that I post is on Facebook. So here, I'm going to post a link to my Facebook. If you're not on my Facebook page, please go and follow me there. It's where I post new classes, upcoming schedules, things in my Patreon, behind the scenes. Behind the scenes is mostly for my Patreon, but I do post a lot on Facebook. So if you're not on Facebook, make sure you go over there and follow me, okay? But that is pretty much it. If you have any questions, let me know down below during class, all that jazz. Quite hot upper 20s and lower 30s. Oh gosh. Yeah, it's hot, guys. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we are going to do is we're going to paint our background. But before that, if you did draw on your all of your things, make sure that you can, to make sure that we can see it all, I'm going to go over most of at least the butterfly, I'm going to go over it in black. I'm mainly going over just the outline. So if you have an acrylic marker, you can use that. I'm going to show you how to do it without an acrylic marker. And when I say acrylic marker, I mean like the fine tip ones, or like it's pretty much like a pen. So you're just going to grab a little bit of black, and a liner brush. And all of the supplies that I mentioned before that I'm using in class is on my Amazon. So if you're interested in buying the things that I use, or interested in just seeing what I use so you can buy something similar, it's all in my Amazon shop. I also have a Canada Amazon shop, which is not set up correctly, and I don't think I actually get, extra money from, but it's there if you want to see it, or you can look at my my US one and figure out something similar from there. And just to clarify, it's no extra cost for you to go on to my Amazon shop. I get like an extra cents here and there for things that you guys buy. It just helps support the channel. Okay, so I'm going to focus on pretty much just the outer layer on this. I'm not going to put in all this detail because honestly I don't need to put that in there. So let's go ahead. Okay. Yeah, so grab your paint, grab some water, put it in there, and I'm just going to fill in this space. If you've ever used a acrylic marker, it does make the process like 100 times faster because you don't keep having to go in for paint, and it's just much easier. Alright, the only other thing I'm going to do is put a light circle around the eye, that big eye. And then I think the only other thing that I'm going to go around is the bottom of this. We could just kind of get this in here because this is going to be dark green anyway, so I'm not worried about being able to cover up any lines. Alright, and I'm making sure not to go over this middle part just because it's going to be so, I don't know, easy, I guess, to just make it yellow. Alright, let's go ahead and make our background. Now you can have fun with the background and get a sponge to kind of create more of like a ambiance of like different colors and like, or you can have it all one color. It's totally up to you if you want that kind of fade in and out of the darker and the lighter colors. If I were to do that, I would use this sponge because I can just kind of ball it up and mix it all in. I might do that. I might not. How about I'll do it and you can see whether or not you like it, and then you can grab your sponge. But yeah, let's go ahead and make our gray. And I realize I need more white than this. So most of this gray is white. I'm going to put a little bit of black in one. I'm just going to make 3 different blacks, or 3 different grays. And just remember that whatever your colors are on your palette, most likely they're going to be darker when you get on, they're going to be darker when you put it on the canvas. So I have 3 hues of I should say shades. I have 3 different shades. They're all the same hue, but different shades of gray. Only 3. And the first thing I'm going to do is take my big brush, and I'm going to put the medium shade on the top and the sides. And by doing it on the top, you can kind of see what it's going to look like as well, and that'll help you decide whether or not it's too dark or not, or light. And then you're just going to start adding that to the canvas. And you're just going to put the different elements of the different 3 colors. And if you were using a sponge, you could come behind yourself and just add texture. Sorry for all the noise. My whatchamacallit, my easel does not like dabbing. What's nice about having a textured background is that if it's all textured, then it all looks cohesive and you don't have to worry about brush marks or anything like that. You could even like do bokeh in the background if you wanted to. If you don't want to use a sponge and you're finding that you can see too much of your brush strokes and you don't want that type of look, just wait for it all to dry and then you can come back and do a second coat, and that will help get rid of any brush marks that you can see. Something to remember with this type of painting, where you have like a generic background and then you have the like the focal point, which is the butterfly and the flower. Don't get lost in the background. Like, don't put so much detail in the background that you lose the focal point. And that's one of the things that I like to try to do when I'm doing this type of background, is really to not put too much detail in the background, because I don't want to detract from the focal point. All right. So if you did use a sponge, please make sure to rinse that out as soon as you can, because all that paint will dry in it and then you won't be able to use it again. So what I like to do is I like to just dip it in my water, whether dirty or clean. At this point it's probably pretty clean. And I'm just going to squeeze it until all the paint's out. And then I'll have a wet sponge, and then it will stay wet for the next hour and a half, until class is done, and I can wash it out with soap. I do still want to make sure that I wash it out with soap, to make sure that all that paint is out, okay? Okay, so our next thing on our to-do list is to put together our colors for our base coats. But before I do that, I'm going to go around with some white and put back in my main outline of my my two things. Now, if you didn't draw this in, now would be the time to draw it in with your paint. For instance, you could grab your paint and figure out where, you know, your middle section is. And actually, I'm going to take this gray paint and put a little bit more gray over here, because I want to be able to have my yellow like peek up into the gray. Okay, so what I mean by that earlier is you're going to take your white and you have to figure out where this is. So I would put, you know, a little bit there. Put in your stem. And then once you put in your stem, you can figure out where everything else is, and you can just put this in with your white. And I'm just using my my filbert, my small filbert. And if you have a different flower or different, you know, a different flower that you want to use for your reference, like maybe you took a picture in your backyard and you want to use that, feel free to, you know, adapt this painting to whatever you want and make it your own. Again, I'm here to give you the tools and tips to be able to create your own paintings. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the butterfly. Make sure that you go over the black line though. Or else you'll have a black line outlining your butterfly. Which normally that would be fine because like most monarchs or any other butterfly has black lines that outline its shape, but this one has white. Which reminds me, if you want to do a different butterfly, you can also do that. And if you're a dum-dum, just like me, and you stick your hand on your canvas, and you notice right away, you can always fix that by getting a clean brush, getting it in water, and just kind of reactivate that paint that was smudged and fix it. I don't know how many times I've done that. And if you don't have paint on you by the end of your session, did you really paint? Alright. I apologize if I'm quiet. I typically get quiet when I'm like thinking really hard. but also if I feel like I have nothing to really teach on at the moment, I tend to be quiet and just enjoy myself painting. I'm not one to like chit chat and make up conversations to like appease people. But I tend to say things when I feel like it's important and to enjoy the process when I don't feel like I need to. That being said, once you get done with your first coat, if you feel like any part of your painting feels like you need a second coat of white to make sure you level the playing field, especially with these light, bright colors, such as your yellows or your oranges, you're gonna need a white background to really get those colors in. So make sure that it's as white as possible. And if you just painted them in just now, you'll probably need to do a second coat for sure. At this point, I'm also going to create the little extra pieces of the stamen with some white. There's a couple loops. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and do a second coat in some of these spots that got a little bit darker, or places that I added outside of where I had placed my my traceable. Alright, so that's pretty good. It's a pretty good base to have. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to create our colors that we're going to coat these in. I'm going to go ahead and start with some orange. So I'm going to get my orange out, and then I'm also going to grab my yellow, because there's quite a bit of yellow in this orange mixture. So I'm just going to mix some of this yellow into the orange. I'm going to keep a little bit to the side, but I'm going to add a little bit more yellow. And the reason I'm keeping a little bit to the side is because if I need to go into a darker orange, I'm going to mix that one with just the slightest bit of black, and I'll kind of create like a brown that will help darken whatever I'm using. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and use my medium filbert. And I'm going to make a very light orange, almost like a yellow orange. That I'm going to just cover the whole thing in. And I'm just going in with a smaller brush and making sure that I go all the way up to the line. And actually, I'm just going to focus on the lighter parts right now. I'm kind of working back to front a little bit. I'm mostly just filling in all of the white area, but as I go, I'm paying attention to what's dark and what's light. So for instance, on the top of this one, it goes a little bit darker, so I'm just going to add that and blend it into the yellow kind of that I've already created on there. And we will add layers. This is just the first layer, but just try to pay attention to where those dark bits are. Alright, I'm going to move over to this one under here. Alright, so I'm going to go into a lot more yellow right here. And then I can come back with some orange from the top down. And I can mix that in. Again, don't worry if this is just the first coat. It doesn't have to be like what it looks like now is not what it's going to look like at the end. I think a lot of painters, mainly beginner painters, and even I did this when I first painted too, is that I would get stuck in this like early stage that I could never break out of. I call it the ugly stage. This is the ugly stage right now because it's something you like the painting has to go through before you can come out on the other side. But sometimes you can get stuck there because of, for whatever reason, like your mind is like, oh, this isn't going well, this isn't what it's supposed to look like. Like, no, it's not what it's supposed to look like. It's also not going to look like this. You just have to push through and keep going and keep adding those layers. Painting is so much more than just putting paint on a canvas. It's putting paint on a canvas over and over and over and over again. So now I'm going to do this top one. I'm going to pull down. Going into my yellow, I'm just going to pull down. A lot of times in my undercoats, I like to indicate like what's coming next, almost in them. This especially comes with the territory when you're painting fur, of like starting the process early, making sure that all your brush strokes are going in the right direction. That's what I'm doing here. I'm making sure I'm pulling down from the top and curving it in, because those are like those markings that we already see in here. And so I just want to make sure that those are seen and are the same. Alright, so we have one more, at least I have one more. So I'm just going to do that over here. I use that yellow. And the yellow that's under here that we're going to put in is going to be yellow with a little bit of this kind of orangey brown and a little bit of black. Let's see how that looks. It's close. It's okay for a first coat. So again, that is your yellow. I add a little bit of that brownish color we created earlier, and then I add a little bit of extra black. Alright, we're going to do a first coat of our yellow up here. So I'm going to take my yellow and add just a little bit of white to it, make it a little bit more, make it a little less translucent. Alright, so that's a fine first coat. And let's go ahead and put a first coat on here. This orange is a little bit more of a reddish, so I'm just going to add a touch of red to my palette. And within this orange, I'm going to add a little bit of red and a little bit of white. And I think that's good for now. I'm gonna go ahead and do a coat, just a, it's what I call a like a wash. That's what it's called. It's called a wash. It's just, a wash is essentially just a very light coat, very watery coat of paint. It dries fairly quickly. I'm gonna get out my brown and do a little bit of a brown coat over here up top. And that brown is going to be mixed with a little bit of black and yellow. It's kind of a yellowy brown. And then the brown down here is much more bright and kind of on the redder orange side. So you can add your brown and a little bit more of your orange over there. And as I'm painting this, I am kind of staying away from the edge because we're gonna have to come back and put a white edge anyway, so it'll just be easier if we start that now. If we think about that ahead of time, then we won't necessarily have to come back and paint that. And what the fun thing about washes is that you can reactivate the paint and kind of like take bits and pieces out. So I have a brush that I can come behind here and just take out and map out some of the big parts. I'm literally just taking a small brush that has water on it, and I'm just kind of drawing in, and it's taking off the paint and creating lines. That's all I'm doing. I'm not putting any extra paint on. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and take this same color with my texture brush, and I'm going to put in some details. I'm going to color the eye this color. And I'm just going to add this color anywhere where I feel like it makes sense in the picture. And I'm going to do it in a way that's very textured so that it looks like almost furry, because butterflies in fact their bodies are a little bit furry. I'm going to go ahead and put in the legs with some white. And then I'm also going to put in his little mouth. And you can start adding little details. I'm just adding little black dots in places. What's a cool thing about something like this is that every animal is different. Every butterfly is different. And so not only is that true, but yours is going to look different than mine, and that's okay. right. I'm going to let all that dry. I'm going to continue with my black, and I'm going to go up into the wing, and I'm going to try to put in all of the dark spots that I can find. So I'm going to start at the top so that I don't, like, you know, overlap myself coming down. I'm actually going to switch over to my texture brush because I feel like some of these things are going to need a little bit more texture. And I'm actually going to use this brush to also put in the lines, because the lines up top you'll notice are black and the ones down below are white. So I'm going to go ahead and use this to put my lines back in, or if this is your first time putting them in, figure out where they're going to go, and that will help you figure out where everything else is going to go. I'm going to go in with this brown paint just before I do any more black. And I'm going to put in some texture in some places. It's just like elements of this color. And at this point you can go in any order that you want. You can add the white spots, the dark spots, whatever spots you feel inclined to put in at this point. I'm deciding to put in the white spots first because a lot of the white spots have black outlines. So I'm just putting those in first. And I'm just continuing down. Putting white spots and just adding white wherever. Again, you can go in any order that you want. If you want to stick to just doing the top one, that's totally fine. I'm kind of jumping from my white to my black and back and forth. What's cool about butterflies is their markings is like all of it's believable in times of like, I'm just gonna put a marking on here and it's gonna make sense. Like, and I'm moving back to black, in case you were wondering. I'm going to put in the dots, and then I'm also going to move up and put in all the other parts. So this is the part of like all the tiny little details that if you're a beginner and you feel overwhelmed, take it slow, and you don't have to put in all these details. I particularly like to put in details. I think it's lots of fun, but I know it can be overwhelming. So I'm adding texture of dots and lines everywhere, especially in something like a butterfly. It feels like the more time you spend on the wings giving it detail, the more realistic it looks. And I'm gonna go ahead and finish out the white parts of this bottom one, and I'm gonna show you a really fun texture technique that we can use. Alright, while I'm doing this white, I'm going to go ahead and do the top white too. And then I'm going to show you a fun texture technique. So if you have like a stipple brush of some sort, get that out. I'm going to add a little bit of white right here and just kind of blend it in a little bit. Alright, we're going to go ahead and add some fun stipple. So get your stipple brush. I'm going to use this one here. It's very frayed. It's pretty old. I'm going to use this to add some texture and like dots. And you're just gonna add all these dots to your wings. After I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and add this orangey brown. After doing that, I've seen things that I need to add. I'm adding a shadow to the legs on the opposite side and underneath. There's a couple brown spots in here. There is some very distinctive black, almost like stripes. Those lines go all the way up to that first black line. And now it's the time I'm going to put in all the other black areas. Alright, and like I said, pretty much whatever you do, it's gonna be believable in its, like, I don't know, in its coloring and things like that, just because every butterfly is different. As long as you get proportions right, and you get just like the different elements, like the legs and, you know, then it all comes together. I'm gonna go ahead and put in the antennas back in. All right. Alright, so now we can focus the rest of the class on the flower. I'm going to go ahead and clear off some space here for my green. That is probably one of my favorite things about this palette, is that it is super easy to clean even when I'm in the midst of teaching a class. Super awesome. Alright, I'm going to grab a little bit of this green. And I am going to need more yellow, so I'm going to grab that. And then, yeah, pretty much we're going to make this green a little bit more on the yellow side. So I'm going to grab some yellow. I'm also going to grab a tiny bit of brown to make it a little bit more of an earthy tone. I think it needs even more yellow. Let's go ahead and put on a first coat of this. And I'm going to go straight into black for the under coating. I'm just kind of slowly mixing them in, but this top is mostly going to be that black. If you're having troubles getting a straight line up and down, put it to the side and try again. It's a lot easier to go side to side than it is up and down. Alright, so there's your first coat of that. We're going to, I think I'm going to get some yellow ochre. If you don't have yellow ochre, that's fine. Just grab your normal ochre or your normal yellow and add some brown to it. I'm going to add some brown to this anyways. And do one more coat of this down here. Alright, there's that. I'm also going to use this same color for some color in here. I'm just going to make some random markings kind of going down. Mostly gathering at the bottom with a little bit heavier on the dark markings. Maybe even adding a couple dark parts. And all of a sudden it's starting to burst with color. And the reason for that is because without the dark you can't have the light. So before it just looked like a blob of yellow, and now it's starting to look like a stamen. I'm gonna grab some orange, and at the top I'm gonna put a couple orange ones, and I'm just pulling my brush down. I'm laying it on there and pulling my brush down. And if you wanted to come back over, like let's say you accidentally put too much on there, you can grab some yellow, you can grab some white and mix in that, mix that yellow in with the white. Make sure it's the original, make sure it's the original yellow that you used. And you can add that. Oh no! Alright, so something that I just did is that I got that. Sorry, my son's alarm is going off. Give me a second. Right after I fix this, because this is a timely manner. So just get your brush wet and you can just wipe it off. Alright, give me 1 second. Alright, sorry about that. I usually set my son's alarm to go off 15 minutes after class, and my math didn't work out earlier today apparently, and it just went off. So let's go ahead and finish up class, and then I will get going with being a mom again. Okay, so what I was saying with this is that go ahead and just add your white to a little bit of this yellow. And you can add anything in here that maybe you want to stick out a little bit more. But honestly, I really like how mine is coming out. Alright, with our brush, with our filbert brush, our small one, I'm going to work on adding some yellow in here. Just some extra yellow, extra color, anywhere where it's a little bit brighter. And that you can add those in streaks. You can add those in general, brightening up something. And then you can also come back with your orange and add in any dark areas. This is where you'll add that detail of those lines. So what's important in this flower is really making sure you have the darks and lights right. So the inside of this flower is light versus the outside of this one is dark. And so you can see where one starts and where the other one ends because of that difference, because of that coloring difference. So right here you couldn't really tell where that one started, so I'm just adding a little bit of darkness to it so you can clearly see where it starts. Alright, I think I'm done with the flower. Let's go ahead and finish the stem, and then we will be all done. I'm going to go ahead and add another layer of this green. And I'm going to grab a little bit of this white yellow and just add it at the very, very bottom. And just pull it up. And then I'm going to come back and put more black in the top part. Alright, and you're just going to pull that down. I left the right side a little bit darker. But that is the gist of that. All right, and that is it. That is our class. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed painting this one. And feel free to take as much time as you need on that butterfly. I know there's a lot of detail. There's a lot of different techniques that you can use to create all the detail on it. Again, if you don't want to add that much detail, that is totally fine. Feel free to add as much detail as you want or as little detail as you want. I think as long as you get the shapes down and the basic colors, I think it's going to look beautiful, and I can't wait to see yours. So if you did end up painting this with me, please just let me know by sharing it in our artist community. I'm going to post that right now in our chat. All the links that I'm posting are also available in the description, so feel free to also look there if you don't have access for some reason with the live chat or whatever. So all those links are also in the description. But yeah, I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'm just finishing up a couple details I missed, but I think this is one of those paintings where you could probably just keep going and going and going and going. So I'm gonna stop here. My kids are awake and out of their quiet time, so thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you will join us next week. Next week should be a really, really simple one. If you felt like this one was too hard, or you just want a different site, paint something different, and with me and you're enjoying my classes, we're doing a pastel, just sunset beach. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's pretty simple. We're going to work on blending, so I hope you will join me. And again, follow me over on Facebook, because that is where I post the majority of my content. I will see you next week. Have a great rest of your night, and we'll see you then. Bye, guys.